Welcome to AI Near and Far, the podcast where we talk with creators, innovators, business executives, and curious minds who are using AI to transform the way they work, think, and create. I'm Brad Moss, the CEO of Enhanced AI and the host of this podcast. In each episode, I sit down with someone who's putting AI to use in real, meaningful ways. We'll explore how they've used AI in the past, what they're building right now, and where they see it going in the future. Along the way, we'll dive into their personal takes on the opportunities, challenges, and surprises that come with this fast-moving tech. This show is here to spark ideas, share insights, and help you enhance your own experience with AI. All right, so we're excited to announce a brand new interactive feature for our listeners. As we are brainstorming and knowing that we're AI first, we're starting this week that each episode will come with its own AI-powered chatbot, and it's linked in the description of this episode. So the chatbots are designed to answer your questions as if you're talking directly to the guest. So it's trained on their insights from the show and their public work. So you can dive deeper, explore their ideas, or even ask follow-up questions we didn't get to during the interview. Just click on the link and start chatting with this week's guest. Hello and welcome back to another episode of AI Near and Far. Today I'm thrilled to welcome a true pioneer at the intersection of artificial intelligence and marketing, Jessica Fontana. Jessica is the co-founder of Samurai Partners, where she helps organizations achieve what she calls smarter, leaner growth through AI-driven marketing systems. Now, Jessica has over 27 years of digital marketing experience. She's evolved from traditional strategies to becoming an award-winning AI strategist who's documented helping clients to achieve remarkable 20 to 40% gains in efficiency and revenue. She's been recognized by Neil Patel for her e-commerce SEO excellence 2 years running. Neil, I know Neil, he's a fantastic and industry-leading guy. That's a great badge of honor to have. So it's a no small feat. And what I find particularly fascinating about Jessica's journey is how she's channeling her expertise and becoming a 3-time Amazon #1 best-selling author, sharing her frameworks for integrating SEO, paid media, and automation with AI. And she's essentially creating the playbook for how businesses can transform their marketing in the age of AI. And when she's not designing scalable marketing systems or leading workshops, she's advising franchises, agencies, and operators across multiple industries, essentially translating complex AI things into practical business uses that actually drive results. So I'm excited to dive in here and talk with Jessica about the future of AI and how it's evolving and what it's doing in the past, present, and kind of future of her life. So Jessica, welcome.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
So you've had an incredible journey in your digital marketing over the past 27 years. Can you share what initially drew you into the field here in marketing?
Sure. So interestingly enough, I wanted to be a cardiac surgeon, which it ties really well into marketing. No, kidding. I was in college. I did my first year, which was pre-med. I got mono twice in my second semester. I lost my grant and I had to leave school. And I had somebody that I had met who was like, the internet is the future. And she happened to be a marketing guru. And so I
don't want to date you, but around what year range was this?
This was 1998.
You could have said a range, but that 98 was right.
Yeah, it was 19. It was this was May of 98. And okay. Yeah, and she said the internet is the future, and she kind of waved her hand, and I was like, okay. And so I benchmarked like 200 websites, radio station websites back in 98, helped her. So I got to like learn all the different things, all the cool stuff that was out there, anything that was going on. And by benchmarking it, we were able to pull all of that together and then create a really, really good strategy for radio station websites back in 98, 99. And so that's how I got started.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, so when you get when you got kickstarted into this kind of career, what it's turned into,
Yeah.
what's kind of reflecting on your transition from like digital, from traditional digital marketing to focusing on like automation? Like, how did that start happening? The automation pieces, and then soon after we'll talk about AI. But how did that transition start happening as things were all being established while you were doing this, right?
Yeah, so I started becoming more like a chief digital officer where I was helping people with the back end of their web, everything from websites to marketing conversations and everything. And it started to get to a point where I was like, we need to have some automations. There needs to be some digital things that are in place so that this is not, repetitive tasks don't keep having to happen. You don't have to email leads to the right person. You can, all of those like little things where it was like, there's got to be a better way. And so started with a lot of automations, started with a lot of streamlining. And then when it all started coming in, it was like, oh, this is just the next step. This is where we have to be. All these things need to be digitized. It's got to be put in a framework. We've got, strategies, we've got systems, and through all of that, we just started developing and automating, and then through that, now we have AI, which is great. So it's
Yeah.
just
Well,
getting better.
yeah, I mean, which is fascinating. Like marketing, for a while, digital marketing was like so narrow. It's like, or well, it was you only had so many tools. I should say it that way, right? And now the tools and the nuances are like so elaborate. It's just gotten more, actually, what you have to do and manage. I was just talking with someone today, and he was saying he has like 1,300 emails, no, emails that different email addresses that he sends from that all point for a
Yeah.
company so that he can manage the email
And
systems
the
and actually get emails
deliverability.
to deliver to people.
Yeah.
And my mind's like, that's incredible. First of all, it's incredible what you've created. But number two, that's so much just to deliver an email because the spam filters and everything. But they're just sending like straight up emails. They're not spamming people actually. They're just how do you get an email to get delivered into someone's inbox? These are people who are interested and want their services. And so
Absolutely. It's so interesting because you look at that, you look at the 2003 can spam, you look at everything that happened last year in the telecom industry with having to go through similar regulations that we went through in 2003, right? And that's kind of what happens in these worlds. It's like you've got your strategy, you've got your way forward, but then everything has to be, then you've got your people who are in the wild, wild west who go out and do all of the things that you're not sure if they should be doing, and then everything gets kind of brought back in.
yeah, well, it's usually those people who break something that create the regulations that we all have to follow after
That's
that.
right.
Believe me,
Hmm.
with my time at Amazon, it's been a lot of that. But the okay, so then let's talk about transitioning to AI. So automation is a huge thing, and that's actually a strength in digital marketing as the kind of automation you can put in there. Now, what are some things that you couldn't do before, but all of a sudden you can now? Or what did AI kind of bring to that marketing when you first discovered it? I mean, maybe tell me when you first discovered it, and then kind of what your initial thoughts were. Maybe that's where we should start here.
Yeah, yeah. So when I first discovered it, I actually got brought into a mastermind 2.5 years ago by this same woman who told me about the internet and started me there. And so
She's on the bleeding edge of everything, right?
yeah, she's always 4 years ahead of everything. And so she was like, you've got to know AI. And so she brought me in. I dug in, started doing custom GPTs, all different kinds of things like 2 years ago. And really, what I ended up doing with it is creating a content engine. The first thing that I did was create a content engine. We did probably 3 or 4 thousand pieces of content in 2024 through that content engine. So and that's part of like my SEO strategy and some of those other things is taking all that content and bringing all that content together. And so I took a look at how several other people were doing it. I was able to look at a couple of different companies who were out there trying to do it at about $100 an article, and I was able to get it down to $50 an article internally for what we were able to do, which was really, really great at the time. Um, and everything was SEO optimized, which a lot of other people that were doing uh, AI content at the time weren't doing. They were like, okay, I'm just pumping out content, right? But everything that we had an actual strategy with content pillars and sub pillars and all of that kind of stuff. So we really I took my SEO mind and really used it along with a series of custom GPTs to be able to get out and pump out that level of content.
Okay, so you're using all this, with the traditional ChatGPT. Have you explored some of the other models like Claude and Gemini? And do you have kind of favorites amongst those models, or
Yeah.
maybe favorites for certain use cases?
Yeah, so Claude is definitely one of my favorites for refining. ChatGPT, I love all the custom GPTs and being able to do that. I've created custom GPTs for clients, as an example, for here's how to, I saved one client 2 hours a week just on creating a business analyst GPT that allowed him to look at his business and the way that he wanted it to. Just all he had to do was upload his report, and it basically spit out an entire report exactly how he wanted it. Gave red, green, uh, yellow based on how they were performing and all of those kinds of things. So we really were able to use it and apply it to help people save time, save energy, save money.
Okay, well that's great. Uh, it sounds like something a lot of folks could do, but perhaps not a lot of folks have done. I'll take a half step back actually before we talk about kind of the present here. The you know you've been recognized in excellence in e-commerce by Neil Patel 2 years in a row. Looking back, like what are some of the key lessons or insights you gained from that working on the cutting edge of SEO and AI, and kind of being on his list there?
You know, part of what I learned and part of what got me there is strategy, right? And so um, the learning half of it is learning what it takes to make it, right? There's so many people out there with SEO that don't understand. They they haven't looked at the SEO periodic table and really know all of the pieces. They do one or two and they think that that's okay. Right, and then you've got AGO and GEO and all of those other pieces as part of it now. And people don't necessarily understand that everything builds on each other. And so they're like, oh, I'm going to go do this thing, or I'm going to go do this thing, or I'm going to do this thing, when it's really a holistic framework that can get you where you want to be.
Great. So executing on those has kind of helped with that. Is basically kind of what I'm getting from that. Now, you said the periodic table. Is this a periodic table that's changing now? Is it different because AI systems are? I've read and talked with a few folks about how do you optimize for search engine, or for not search engine optimization, but AI searching.
AEO, GEO, yeah.
Yeah, and talk to me about kind of what you've learned there from in this perspective. Like, what's the latest? What are the principles? How does this fit into this periodic table? Is there a new element we've just created? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think, a lot of what people don't see, a lot of people look at it and say, okay, as long as I keep doing the same thing, I'm going to be okay. Or, but when we look at Google and we look at how much has changed there, especially with onset of ChatGPT, where all the searches are going and everything else, having that answer engine, and which is AEO, right? Answer engine. Part of what people are having to do differently is it's not just the Q&As, it's not just all of those things. They have to make it a little more rounded, and they have to get into some of the technical stuff that they otherwise wouldn't have. For example, if they never optimized for voice, then they need to. Because if you never optimize for voice, that also means you're not doing your schema, which means you're not ready for AI either. Because all of those things have to be in place. And so you have to be more into the technical side of SEO to really be able to speak to AI, whereas before you could kind of get away without doing that as much.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, so it almost sounds like hey, these systems are a little smarter. And so you got to be make sure you're on your game when you're developing the content to not just game
Absolutely.
the algorithms, which I'm sure there's some of that, but you have to. Some of the algorithms now are AI, which is trained to be smarter, right, than it
That's
ever
right.
has been before, right?
Absolutely. 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 And we were able to, he actually had found, Neil had found a case study that I had done with a partner, and we had increased their SEO about 10x over a year. And it was a multi-pronged strategy, right? So it wasn't just, it was, yes, he had to fix his SEO because somebody had moved his site and broke it all. So it was like, we have to get all of that fixed, all of that back in place. But then on top of it, we had to increase overall awareness, right? So it's like it was a 1-2 punch because you have to increase your authority, which is the same thing you have to do right now with AI. You have to be able to increase that authority so that AI can recognize you as an authority so you can be higher, right? And that was similar to what we had to do then, is increase that authority through social, and we took an entirely different social strategy for him. For example, like, he had really pretty girls doing mouthwash, and I was like, don't use the pretty girls, you need to do it. It needs to be you. You are the authority, you are the expert, you are the Ayurvedic doctor, you are the guy who put all this stuff together, who has a 50-year history in mouthwash and mouth stuff.
Yeah.
Don't be using the pretty girls. And that's what he did. He went out and he started becoming the face after that. And between him becoming the face, becoming the authority, us having all of his SEO in place, all of the things worked together, and he was able to 10x over a year.
Yeah, that's fantastic. A lot of it's this idea of authenticity, right? And
Yeah.
getting more authentic with your content, which is maybe that's an interesting. I mean, it's a theory of mine. I actually think all of technology is moving to more authenticity, including the systems, because this authentic piece is. Anyway, I think it's a cultural movement, well, a business movement almost, like how we use these systems. I don't know if I have the right words to explain it, but how have you seen
It's
like
that
that kind
authority
of
and trust, I
the
think, is what
what?
it brings. It's like the authority and the trust. It's kind of what it all goes back to, right? Having that, it's a lot harder for a business, if somebody who's faceless, to have that authority that you can get through individual people, because you don't necessarily trust companies, right? How many people are like, oh, big bad company is just trying to hurt you, right? Versus a face,
Yeah.
a person, having that authority is that trust.
And perhaps I think that's probably one of the things that social media has actually brought to the forefront, and maybe that's been different from before. It used to be like, oh, GE, stable company, I'll trust them, right?
Right.
But now with so much social media, I think one of the things it's doing, that's why I think it's a movement here of like, hey, how do you get more authentic and more customized, like responses to who you are? And having formerly worked for the Amazon for the last 5 years, I've been saying the star system's broken, the 5-star system's broken because it doesn't have any of that kind of authentic response. It's like, hey, this is what everyone rates this, but there's a whole social media side that's like, no, it's like this is what my social media person is that I follow, what they love, and I trust them because they're like me. They have 2 kids. They live in the suburbs, outside of a big city, outside of Chicago, whatever. And so you actually follow that person because it's more authentic to you. That's why I actually feel like the star system's been broken for years. And you're seeing that. I trust it less and less because now it's people spam the star system and a bunch of Chinese hacker sellers are doing that. But I think maybe just your perspective on this. How do you feel like AI helps the introduction of this AI technology? Do you feel like it helps us become more authentic and present ourselves more that way, or are we going to be seeing more bots that are like quasi authentic and not really authentic, come
Mhm.
out with a marketing message? And maybe I should more narrowly focus this. Like, think of it from your client's perspective. So maybe I'm a service, like I'm a doctor or a dentist, or even a software provider. Like, how does it help, or how can it help in this in
That's
that
a
vein?
great question. And it's kind of funny because we didn't discuss this ahead of time. So you actually went right into one of my books. So one of my,
Hey, here you go. Serve it up.
yay,
Go ahead.
yeah. So,
Post it down below. I'm sure we'll put it
right.
down below.
Yes, yes. So this book is actually called Mastering Influence, and mastering influence in a digital world. And part of what we talk about are exactly those pieces. So like, what is your leadership DNA? What does that mean? What does your voice really sound like, right? And then how do you work with your team? How do you basically prevent AI from sounding like a bot when you're trying to talk to your team or when you're trying to use it for those things, right? And we actually have this, it's like 30-page voice diagnostic for a leader. And it comes from everything of not just your tone and your voice, but what is it that you're really saying, right? What types of things do you say now when you don't like something? What kinds of things do you say when you do like something, right? And how do you really capture that entire thing? And how do you use that within your team? And so we actually have an entire leadership diagnostic that we work through, and then and that's all part of our mastering influence. And then on the other side is actually our 10x AI amplifier, which is our other book, and that really talks about amplifying what is AI, right? What is AI for us? AI is an amplifier. What does it do? Right now, it can't do much with, I mean, it can, we've got agents, they can do things without us, but AI really is able to take whatever you are and amplify you. If you're a bad person looking to do bad things, you're going to do bad things, right? If you're a good person trying to help others and do things, you're going to use AI in a way that's going to help others and that's going to push forward.
I think this is such a fascinating perspective. I mean, I want to double click on this a little bit more because, like, you hear a lot about, hey, AI is going to 10x everybody,
Yes.
right? But it's like, what is it 10xing? It's it's
Mhm.
like if it's a seed, whatever comes from that seed is going to grow and grow even more and faster.
Absolutely.
And so that leads us into who are who are you and how good are you at your job? If whatever you're doing, you're just doing it half baked, like it will exemplify half baked delivery. Is that
Yeah.
you feeling the same
Absolutely.
way?
Well, garbage in, garbage out, right? Like as a software guy and stuff like that, databases, garbage in, garbage out, and AI is the same way, right? You put garbage in, you're gonna get garbage out. I
Yeah.
mean, it might be like a really refined garbage. You're gonna have a polished turd, so to speak, but it's not necessarily gonna be.
Sometimes that sells, we've seen plenty of those sell before,
Yeah.
but it's not consistent. It won't survive.
No.
Um, that's it's so fascinating. Okay, so let me take, and I've often touched on this in other podcasts, but what do you think that this amplification idea?
Hmm.
What do you think? How do you think that applies to people in school right now? Like what they're learning. A lot of people are like, "Hey, is AI going to take all the jobs?" Right? Which is, like, no. There's going to
No.
be a lot more jobs. There'll be temporary stuff, but everything will just keep growing as a society. But like, what does that tell people who are in school right now? Like, what should I learn when they
Hmm.
come to me? What should I learn? How does that this kind of amplification process
So I have a little story on this actually.
speak to you? Perfect,
So,
perfect.
so from my first book, AI Wrecking Ball, I actually talk about this a little bit. And what I want to bring you back to is let's think about the 90s, right? In the 90s, when you wanted to if you went into a gas station, you went to buy something. You had to present them a credit card and they took out a machine, put your credit card on the machine, put some papers on it and then went right? Remember that? Yep. Okay. So, then that little piece of paper got put in the drawer until that night. At the end of the night, they did the books. They put that as part of the tickets, and that went to the bank. Okay? The bank then took their little piece of paper, and it went into a room with a bunch of people who did 10 key overnight and said, doot, 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 here's the accounts it goes into. Okay? Think about how many people had to go through that process. How many people were there at the banks? How many people had to do the night thing? How many people were employed by that process? Right? Just that simple process of being able to count a transaction from a debit card or a credit card. And now what happens? It is instantaneous. It happens within a moment. You run the card and you get a notification on your phone saying, "Hey, Somebody just had a transaction on your card, right? AI, I think, is going to be a lot like that, right? You're going to have things that are going to go away because it doesn't make sense to have humans do them anymore. But that's also going to leave this entire other area of what can be done with them, right? And one of the things that we're doing is we're going into businesses now and we're saying, okay, let's identify certain people in your company where we can save them 30% of their time. And if we can save them 30% of their time, how can you repurpose them in a way that will make your business more profitable? You have all of these people who have knowledge of your company and all of these other things. How can they be repurposed to actually make you more profitable versus just cutting them out? That's what we're doing when we're going into companies and we're talking to them right now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So, but on the okay, so to further double click on this amplification process, though, if I'm a young person is learning, what should I be learning right now? Knowing that this principle you're talking about is amplification of whoever they are as their root. Like, what would you say they should be learning? Or what kind of skill sets is foundational that it will be good stuff that gets amplified?
Right. A lot of, I think, intelligence, emotional intelligence, right, is going to be huge. If you are able to, when we look at AI, when we look at all of these things, it's not just the AI that we work with, it's the HI or the human intelligence that we apply to the AI right now that makes it amplified, right? Whatever it is that you're amplifying. And I think that if you're in school right now, you're in high school, you need to be learning AI of some sort. You need to be familiar with it, you need to understand it, and if anything, get yourself familiar with however you want to build agents, right? Whether it's N8N, Make, Zapier, ChatGPT, or enhanced AI, right? Because there's all of these different ways and all of these different options right now to create these things. So if I were, and that's the same thing that I'm doing. Like, I went through an enhanced course. I've tried to learn all of the different things because at some point this is one of the singular events in our lives where everybody is going to be on a fairly level playing ground for the next year. You can be coming out of high school and be making $1 million if you learn properly and execute it well, right? And then you've got people who've made millions and millions of dollars who haven't figured out how to leverage it, who are going to make less.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a lot of folks that have left really big positions in very large firms, and they've bailed, started their own because the firms moved too slowly. They knew they could just make just as much with the AI space. So, okay, so I also want to know that maybe give some tips to folks. How do you stay ahead of the curve? And is it important to stay ahead of the curve with these AI tools when the landscape is changing so fast? Like, how do you stay ahead, and then what doesn't matter? What do you just keep coming back to, or what's consistent? Even though it feels like something's changing every single day, most people can't even keep up with what's even happening.
Absolutely. Well, and I'm sure you know this because you've been in the digital internet industry for a long time as well. It's like you have to stay on the edge, because if you don't stay on the edge, you're going to get left behind, right? And so now that being said, the edge is so big now, right? It's not like, here's the forward momentum and this is the edge, right? Now it's moving in 360 because it's moving in every single direction all at the same time. How do you stay? I go to trainings. I have masterminds that I'm part of, and I'm always listening and trying to learn for what other people are doing, because it's not just the general application that's being put out in the market, it's how is that application being applied, right? And because that's where nuances and other bridges and other branches to success kind of come from.
Yeah, I totally see that. There's a lot of cross-pollination that probably is good at this point in the age of AI evolving. Okay, so let's jump to kind of the last section, maybe like one or two more questions. What I'm going to kind of put two into together here. Like, what excites you the most about the future of AI in marketing that people aren't talking about? And is that something that might fundamentally change what it means to be a marketer over the next decade?
Mhm. Marketing is, I mean, when we think about how much AI can do now for a marketer's job and all of the things that it impacts. I mean, let's take Google as an example, right? Um, how many Google agencies are there out there doing PPC? Now, a lot of them, and there's been definitely a shakeup as Google brings in more AI, right? Then it's not just, oh, can you do all the basics? It's how do you use AI to do those things? And I think that that's what we're going to see more and more is there's going to be less like in the trenches, like there's going to be less in Meta per se, actually doing Meta stuff or in Google doing the Google stuff because there's going to be the AI that we can apply to it that can learn off of our procedures and off of our knowledge bases. And hopefully what that means is that we just get to amplify and be more strategic. Just continue being more strategic and continue amplifying.
Yeah, one thing I think we brought up before is everyone starts becoming a conductor to the symphony, right?
Yeah.
Their own symphony.
Their own,
Everyone's
they
like,
become an impresario to their own symphony.
yeah, yeah. So it's what are those skills you need to be able to orchestrate things?
Mhm.
And perhaps I actually emphasize that to a lot of folks is hey, you got to know what everything does. So you do have to get really deep to know what the purpose is of every single instrument in here is, but know that your ultimate job will be to orchestrate the whole thing. So as a marketer with the world of AI, I totally agree. A lot less tactical work. And is the future of work behind a machine like it is today or has been? Maybe it's not as much anymore for everybody, but still is mainly behind a PC of some sort. But maybe that's not the future of work because we have these systems that are doing these things for us, the tactical work. And so maybe it's a little bit different. And that
Yeah.
perhaps is what the future looks like.
For now, I think we're still in charge of strategy. I mean, you can get really good strategy, but without your human intelligence, without your emotional intelligence, without your core knowledge, right? Like, how many times have you seen it hallucinate
Oh, yeah.
or
Yeah, yeah.
send you down the wrong path or whatever? Because without that human intelligent context piece, it doesn't know it's wrong, right? And I think that by continuing to develop emotional intelligence, understanding of people, right? Because a lot of that, I think is still going to be very worthwhile right now. Because AI doesn't understand, it may understand some emotions, it understands emotions at an intellectual level, but it doesn't understand the basics.
Yeah,
Oh,
the kind of foundational pieces of it.
yeah.
Now, okay, so here's the question. If you could get AI to solve one major problem in marketing that seems impossible today, have you ever thought about this? What would it be? And what is something in marketing that might seem impossible that you would love AI to solve?
That's a good question. What do I think it should solve, could solve? Um,
Or what's one thing that seems impossible that maybe AI could solve one day? And if you don't have an answer, that's fine. We can move on. It's kind of a big loaded
that
question.
was a big one. I'm like, wow, what I want to like I'll wake up tomorrow with an answer. Because I'll be like, oh, what do I, what,
Yes, I've done that before. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you tell us little bit about your application. You just recently installed a bot on your website or your application. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah. I was super excited. I worked with the enhanced team over a couple of weeks. We got it figured out. Um, Basically, what it does is there is a little chat bot on my website now, and what it does is it helps me qualify customers based on they can ask, what about Samurai Partners? You know, what are different options? And then from there, we're able to gather a little bit of information, and we're also able to qualify the customer a little bit based on certain questions. And based on their answers, we're able to kind of send them in a few different paths, whether it's, okay, come book an appointment with us, or here are some tools to help you in the meantime.
That's awesome. That's great. And that sounds like a perfect application of AI, and where you're working through the funnel a lot better, and it doesn't take any human time, and it's stuff that customers are happier about too, because they don't want to be their time wasted either. And
That's
so that
right.
sounds like a really good application there.
Yeah, my next step with it is to do another one right next to it that has what's called our alignment engine questionnaire. And so ideally what I want to do is, once we've determined, okay, yes, we can be a customer, here is the alignment engine, get up some questions up front, and then I can give them a report offhand about how many hours a week um, that they could save using our systems.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Um, cool. Well, it's such a fun, exciting world we live in. Let me ask you just one last question. Um, what, looking at the future of AI, what are the skills, or perhaps mindsets of those that you believe will thrive in this AI space versus those who are going to be struggling in this
Mhm.
AI space? If you're looking ahead 5 years, those who've like done really well versus those who've struggled. What's kind of the core skills or mindsets for those who are succeeding?
Um, to be able to, willing to learn and set your ego aside. Because just because you know exactly what you're doing in your industry and you've been doing it for 27 years doesn't mean that things aren't going to change with AI. So being able to be open to learning, open to hearing from others, and really always just taking that moment of saying, okay, AI is learning, is becoming so quickly. The only way to even stay anywhere near the edge is to stay learning and to stay open.
I'm trying to look for, I just pulled up my phone here, an article I read today
Mhm.
that, let's see, she put it so well. She said, I don't feel like the human mind is conditioned to work with the kind of breakneck pace that's been happening with technology. The average worker.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
I gotta
luckily, I'm
find
not
it.
an average worker because I've worked 80 hours a week for many, many years trying to stay on the
Yeah,
edge.
well, that's why I think you're succeeding. But it was just a fascinating article I read today on Forbes, I think,
Mhm.
about saying, hey, the average worker is just not ready for this pace of technology and change and evolution.
Yeah.
And the human mind, like the mind of the average human worker is not ready for this.
Yeah.
And it's very taxing on folks. And that, I think quoted in there is like one out of or most millennials, no, I think it was Gen Zers, are reporting in like one mental, I don't know, some stat of like one mental health day a week that they needed to take a break because there's just so much coming at them. And I think it started going on beyond just the technology into social and economic and political stuff that was happening. But I think there is a whole component that we are not ready for, that we're trying to brace
Yeah.
for the whole workforce to say, wait, this is changing so quickly. How do I keep up with it?
Yeah.
Um,
That's part of the reason
and
why
be
we have an
okay.
entire piece where we're able to go in and help bring AI into teams, because you've got to have that
Yeah,
team alignment as part of it, because if you don't have the
yeah.
alignment, then you've got people who are like, oh, I'm not doing it this way, or I'm not doing it this way. So you've got to have the team aligned to be able to work through it.
And I think it could be perhaps a whole component. I totally agree on that. And I'm thinking maybe it's a new consulting field of like those who are able to help teams with rapid change, knowing it's not going to stop the rapid change, but a
Yeah.
whole consulting layer to help organizations manage. this rapid change that's happening.
That's our Mastering
Because
Influence book. That's the principle behind the whole thing. Yep.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. All right. Well, Jessica, really great speaking with you today. Have
You too.
loved having you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Any final words for those watching or listening?
If you haven't started, start. If you have
Awesome.
started, keep going and don't stop because it's moving so fast. You better keep going.
Yep. It's almost a builder's world right now. It's really really fun. It's a
It
really
is a
great world.
builder's playground, which for folks like you and I who like to take new things and build, it's a wonderful place to be.
Yep. Yep. And it's fun. We're comfortable with it, but I know it can be scary for a lot of folks. But
Yeah.
um, there's just a lot of great things that we're seeing happening. So Jessica, wonderful to have you on. Thank you so much, and we will see everyone next time.
Very good. Take care.
That's it for today's episode of AI Near and Far. Big thanks to today's guests for joining us and sharing their story. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. If you prefer to watch these episodes, you can find them all on YouTube. And if you're feeling generous, please leave a quick review. I'm Brad Moss, and thanks for spending some time with us. We'll catch you next time as we continue exploring how real people are using AI to shape what's next. Until then, keep on building.